Hello and welcome to Around the Lens Roundtable Discussions. I'm your host, David J. Murphy, going solo today because our good buddy Zach is up in D.C. covering a little event going on. I think it's called the State of the Union. Never heard of it, but hopefully it's a fun event for him. Anyways, I'm joined here by a good military friend, in so much as we were both in the military, and that makes us friends by default. My buddy here, Preston Keres. Preston, go ahead and tell the audience a little about yourself.
Hey, thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. So, as you said, my name's Preston Keres, and you said military. So, I'll go back a little bit to sort of give a little bit of background. I joined the Navy or whatever back in '91, and they sent me over. I was basically a personnel, worked in admin for my first 4.5, 5 years, and
Wow.
then ended up uh, putting in for three different jobs. Program had our Navy had a program where you can put, if you want to reenlist after your first enlistment, you could put in for three different jobs, and they'll guarantee at least one of those. And I picked basically weatherman, AG. So that's a weatherman, and I said the whole purpose of me wanting to find a new job was I didn't want to do HR at like Target or something. And that's essentially what the military trained me up to do. And so I figured, well, now's my time to use the military and let them give me some skill sets that I can use for the future. So I picked AG. I forget what it was called, DP maybe, which is computer science. And then I picked journalist, JO, and let you know, the gods tell me where we were going. And sure enough, they came back and says, you're going to go to DINFOS, the Defense Information uh, School there in Fort Meade, and become a JO. And by then I was already an E5. So you went through school, and I don't know how familiar you are with being a Navy journalist, but essentially that's a two forked kind of a system. You've got print side where public affairs and print, and then you've got broadcast side, television and radio. And when I went through the school, I loved the photography side of the house. And I think a lot of that was because of my instructor, Mark Kettenhoffen, was a PH1 photographer first class. And then um, I really enjoyed radio on the radio side of the house. And then it was just a matter of where the orders were and where I was going to go. And so my orders sent me out to Fallon, Nevada to work at a print shop, or work essentially at the public affairs shop, but work print side of the house. So I worked public affairs, and I was the editor of the base newspaper. And as a journalist, you learn how to work public affairs, you learn writing, you learn photography. And so photography back then was essentially shooting photos to help support my written stories. And I learned if I take more photos or play the photos bigger in the newspaper, I don't have to write as many words. And so I really grew attached to that. And then through some fortune and all of that, they sent me to IPC, back to that, an advanced class at DINFOS, and then eventually sent me to Syracuse University, where I went through the MPJ course, the military photojournalism course, and graduated in 2000. And after that, they sent me down to DC to work at All Hands Magazine at the Naval Media Center down on Anacostia, right across the river from Pentagon and all that kind of stuff. And while I was there, the guy I was supposed to replace, Robert Benson, he was a first class and made um, chief E7 when he was down there. And at that time, he had won Military Photographer of the Year twice, and he had won Print Journalist of the Year. So, in other words, he was the military or DOD's top communicator when it came to storytelling and all that. And the fact he made chief, and instead of keeping him there or trying to find a position that would really suit his skill set, they sent him off to a ship where he was just a normal chief, put his cameras down, essentially put his cameras down, and became a leader. And I saw that and I go, there's no way I want to do this. You know, God loved the military. By then I was you know, 9, 10 years in, and saw the light at the end of the tunnel going, okay, do I want to be a chief and do I want to do leadership management kind of stuff, or do I still want to keep a camera in my hand? And because I was still fairly new in this position or in this job field, I go, no, I want to keep this camera in my hand. So if I wasn't out, it was an awesome position because you got to travel the world essentially to tell the Navy story all over the place. And I had fortune to go to England and Palau and all over the country here in the US and all kinds of stuff. And then 9/11 hit, and I ended up going to Ground Zero with a couple buddies up there, and we covered the recovery effort essentially because people ask, well, why is the Navy going up there? Well, the Comfort, the hospital ship, was going up to Ground Zero to provide some support, and they didn't know what they were getting into because by the time they got up there, there was no one to be rescued essentially, and the first responders weren't going to be or weren't going to stay on some hospital ship as a little makeshift hotel. You know, the great people of New York basically opened their homes to these folks and says, hey, come stay here, for all the first responders that came from all around the country. So if I wasn't out traveling doing stories like that for the magazine, when I was home, again, I followed Benson's lead. He freelanced for a small paper here in the DMV. And when he left, he introduced me to the editor there. And I'm like, hey, I would love to follow his lead and basically do your stuff. And so I ended up freelancing while I was still working. And my main goal when I got into photography and went through Syracuse, I wanted to be a sports photographer. I wanted to be a Sports Illustrated photographer. And the people, you know, I loved Walter Yost. I loved David Burnett. And then loved the way they saw things and all that kind of stuff. And I go, that's what I want to do. I've got to do that. So anytime I could find some kind of sports assignment or something like that, I jumped on it and did it a lot while I was up at school at Syracuse. And then when I got down to DC and all hands, I did it there too. And then freelanced at AFP and was fortunate enough to, I applied to go to Eddie Adams. And I went to Eddie Adams shortly after getting into or getting to All Hands magazine, and that's where I met Bill Frakes, Sports Illustrated photographer, and Jimmy Colton, who was a Sports Illustrated editor, and that's the team I was on, was a sports team, and got to know him. And Bill used to work for the Miami Herald for Joe Elbert, and Joe Elbert, in my view, and in a lot of people's view, is arguably the one of the best photo editors in the country. He's got more Pulitzer Prize winning photographers that worked for him than anyone, to my knowledge. I mean, I could be wrong right now, but that's how I saw it back then, because you had the Carol Guzzi's, the Michael Williamsons, all these names, the Lucian Perkins, the Michael DeSeals, all these guys. And I found it interesting. So I was doing a bunch of freelancing stuff. And as I mentioned, sports. And the story that Joe told me was essentially I'd go shoot, and I was always, because I wanted to be, you know, SI guy, they always would want to, you know, they never just came in with their two cameras and went and shot. They'd set up remotes and do all kinds of different things. And I'm going, hey, why don't I try to do this for high school stuff? You know, because that was essentially what I covered a majority of the time while freelancing, because they're not going to give you the, you know, back then the Redskins, or give you the Wizards, or give you the big pro games. And rarely would you go cover the Terps or something like that. So you covered high school. Well, I'd come back from high school games or matches or practices or whatever, and basically try to make photos that I could see running in Sports Illustrated leading off. And word came that the sports editors at the Post basically went to Joe and go, "Who the heck's this Preston Keres guy?" He goes, "Oh, he's one of our freelancers." He goes, "We'll hire him now." Um, Again, it's because at that level, high school, honestly, after I was doing it for a little bit, I fell into that same thing. It's really easy to know what you need when you need it. And going out and fishing for great photos wasn't necessarily the MO for those veterans that were around. But for me, I'm still learning and want to see what I could create. And I was fortunate enough at the Navy at that time, I was about to get out. I had spent 12 years in the Navy, and um, I had to make the decision. Did I want to stay in the Navy and become a manager or a supervisor, or did I want to continue being a photographer and or a journalist, Navy journalist, or anything like that? And I decided, let's get out. And I was fortunate enough that the Washington Post was hiring at that time. I developed a reputation that this guy's a hard worker. He literally 24/7 kind of a guy. If the assignment needs it, he's on it. And then also during freelancing, the big trick that I learned is don't say no. If you get a call to go on an assignment, you just don't say no. You drop everything, and that's what it is. And honestly, I count myself extremely blessed. I had my wife and two young kids at that time, but my wife knew exactly what our future needed to be and goes, "Press our Putch." Putch is my nickname from childhood. I won't explain why, but at any rate, she goes, "Putch, you do your thing." And sure enough, it landed us a staff job at the Washington Post. I was there for a few years. And then eventually, that's when the industry started to get a little tumultuous. During that time, the Chicago Sun-Times let go of their whole staff. The Washington Times let go of a majority of their whole staff, minus like one or two people. And the Washington Post was having buyouts across the whole newsroom and was allowing people to do buyouts. And I want to say there was two or three buyouts during that time. And then we were told, "Hey, there's not going to be another buyout. If it comes down to where we need to cut more numbers, it's probably going to be layoffs." And I'm like, well, I've got 12 years Navy time, military time. I'm not going to get a retirement at the Post. I can use that time and probably get into the government and use those 12 years towards my government retirement. So I decided, which was a difficult decision, to go in and tell the bosses, "Hey, I think I need to leave um, and find some government kind of work." And I ended up going up and teaching back at the same schools that I learned at DIMFOS and all that kind of stuff. And then bounced around a few different positions and things, and then found myself working at USDA back in 2017, right before um, Trump took office during his first term and had a hiring freeze. um, I was able to slide in there and get on board USDA, working in the Office of Communications there and basically covering the secretary and all that kind of stuff. And then when we weren't out traveling and doing that, I don't know how familiar you are with USDA, but it's got different agencies within the department. And if we weren't shooting for the secretary, we would offer our services to all these different agencies and say, "Hey, I can go cover this for you guys," or go out and tell stories and do whatever. And I did a lot of stuff for like rural development, covering, the efforts to schools and, rural America and all that kind of stuff. Also did a lot with um, the marketing service, which is basically cattle and that kind of stuff and all that. And I also did a story or did a coverage for the Forest Service, where I went out to Beaverhead National Forest in Montana. And I got to tell you, that was hands down the best thing I'd ever have. And I go, I've got to find a way to get into this. And sure enough, after some time, actually, before that, I left left OC and went to an agency, FPAC, one of them, and they asked me to come work for them. It's basically NRCS and FSA. And if, for those of you that are familiar with FSA, I always put it, you're familiar with the Great Depression, aren't you? You're familiar with all those photos that came from the Great Depression. Well, that was FSA. That was a bunch of contractors that were hired by FSA to go and tell the story of depression, the Great Depression around the country. And when I was told, hey, you can come work for us and not bother with any of these, suit and tie grip and grins anymore, and just basically go out and tell the story of American agriculture, I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Let me get over there. And unfortunately, like 2 months, 3 months after landing over at FPAC, COVID hit. And like many people, I sat at home. And unfortunately, unlike many people, I literally did nothing for 3 years. Every month or two, I'd get a call saying, hey, we're looking for this kind of a photo. Can you find this for me? And for someone like myself that is just go, 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 that drove me nuts. And so I was on USA Jobs literally for like a year and a half at 12:01 every night. My routine was essentially, watch TV and then watch late night television that would run into the midnight hour. At 12:01, bam, USA Jobs. What's the new job that just came out today? And somehow, some way, the Forest Service needed somebody, and I ended up getting hired over there. And I've been over at Forest Service now 3 years plus. Essentially, my job back then, it was I was like the national photographer videographer. Each forest has their own public affairs folks and has like photographers or videographers that work in those areas or regions. But I was the one that basically went and traveled around the country to do these stories. And then felt the same exact thing happening here with Doge and letting everyone go. A lot of people left, so then we brought more people in from various parts of the country and created a storytelling narrative team on here. So that's why I say I'm no longer the national guy. We've got a bunch of guys on our team and really trying new things and good things. And our comms office is very, very talented. And, you know, um, I'd say, like, you know, without intimate knowledge, but just enough knowledge around the thing, I think we're one of the best comms departments in the government, minus DOD. I mean, they've got so many people all over the place and everything and all that. You just can't beat numbers. But for us, for the amount of people we have on staff versus what we produce and where it all goes and all that kind of stuff, I count myself as one of the lucky ones because it um, allows me to do what I love to do, basically tell stories. I hate being a photographer. I hate being a writer, but I love telling stories. And I love telling someone else's story and using my skills to do that. And this affords me that opportunity to do that. And more importantly, for an agency that I believe in. I'm an Iowa boy. The Navy plucked me out of Iowa and dropped me off in DC. I've got family that are farmers. Agriculture is important to me, and being able to tell their story is extremely valuable for me. And working for the Forest Service, essentially the same thing, just trees instead of corn, kind of a thing. And absolutely love it. And count myself extremely blessed, especially in this climate today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As someone who, recently retired from the military and is currently looking for opportunities, I can say that the job search experience is, how do you say, depressing
Yeah, yeah,
at the worst of it. It's just, you put yourself out there and either you never hear back, or they maybe you get a courtesy saying, hey, you weren't selected or you weren't eligible or whatever.
yeah,
But most of the time it's just ghosting. And, I get it. As someone who had to hire people, myself, Like, there's a reason why they're not calling every single person and being like, "Hello, John, you didn't get picked," and 'cause that you
Correct.
don't want to go down that road because it's
No.
just, it's not fun for the employer either. And a lot of it's kind of just, I would say, they're looking at your resume. I think the worst part of it is that nowadays there's all these systems that immediately flag a resume or discount a resume if it doesn't have the right keywords in it and
Correct.
stuff like that. So, I'm trying to leverage the power of AI to make my resume stand out and hit all those marks. But, I'm also like a diehard, true to my brain and want to write my own resume, right? Because I think I know
Correct.
I can do that. I did it when I left the military back in 2007. I wrote
Yep.
resumes and, got picked up for a few jobs, obviously, and, came back in the military. But, I've been around this block a little bit. It's just, it feels different than it did back in like '07. The
Yeah.
opportunities don't feel as, I guess,
Is abundant and
abundant, yeah,
easily
yeah,
accessible. Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like I almost fell into my next, opportunity just by putting myself out there. And here it's more like you're struggling just to get noticed.
That's
So good on
exactly right.
you for having that opportunity. And I just, this is kind of inside baseball and USA Jobs, but was there some sort of advantage by going at it 12:01? I mean, because like they don't
Well,
look at the resumes until the period is closed, the window is closed, right?
so there's a few things. The old way of USA Jobs, you could put, heck, I don't know the limit, but essentially a 50-page resume in there. So
Right. Yeah.
the whole
I've got
trick
that.
back then, the whole trick back in those days, which was just a matter of months ago, they made a switch here
Right.
recently.
Mm-hmm.
But back in those days, all you needed to really do was look at the job description and look at the questionnaire, and you had the keywords already in there, knowing that a computer was going to do the first chop of the main people and then send whoever makes the cut up to the hiring officials. I was pretty good at getting, every job I had or every job I applied for, I made the cert. And then it was
Okay.
just a matter of, okay, am I going to get an interview? And then do
Right.
they like what I'm doing?
Sure.
The big thing about us, and I feel stoked that this was the case, and I feel guilty that this was the case.
Hmm.
Being a military vet, and especially being a disabled vet,
Right.
you get more points on top of everything else or of everyone else. So most of the time, to my understanding, it's a lot of veterans that end up in the lists of a lot of jobs. Well, if you look at our job, our profession, there's a lot of military guys that are getting out and want these
Hmm.
jobs versus
Sure.
being a lawyer or an accountant or whatever those other jobs that a degree will actually get you those jobs. For
Right.
this position, you don't need a degree. It'll say you need a degree, but you don't need a degree. It's all based off of your experience. And um, as we were talking earlier or whatever, the I've got enough college credits that could pretty much give me a master's right now,
Right.
but I don't have a sheet of paper because they're all spread out and too much, and colleges won't take it. But
Right.
it hasn't hampered me because of the degree. Now, with that said, I did notice, or when I actually landed a job and was in a command for a while or at a unit for a while, I
Hmm.
noticed people would somehow make the cert, somehow get through. And then you'd look at their resume, and for our profession, they like to take flower photos on the weekend. It was a hobby for them, but they were
Yeah.
essentially working at the CVS or doing something else down the line, and
Sure.
somehow they'd make the cert. And it would get to the hiring official, and they're like, "We can't do anything with this. We need people that actually know what their job is."
Right.
And then that just whittles it down even tighter and tighter and tighter. Here recently, though, especially in the last couple of years, hiring has essentially been stopped. Um, a lot of the jobs that are available that you'll see on USA Jobs,
Hmm.
it it's for internal people,
Right.
and whether they say that or not, that's who I've heard they're hiring. Is they're trying to hire someone within. Like at the Forest Service, we've been told hiring isn't frozen. But what it is, outside people coming in is frozen. We can't add more bodies, more numbers to the overall Forest Service
Mhm.
level. Don't
Sure.
quote me on that, but that's sort of what we're being told, which
Right.
means if I've got an opening in our shop and someone wants to join that team or our team, it's got to be somebody that's coming from either another Forest Service position,
Mhm.
or they worked at a government job somewhere else and slid in, as a photographer, multimedia producer, or public affairs specialist, or whatever, and
Right.
then was able to apply for that. For folks that are on the outside civilian sector looking in that aren't currently government,
Right.
this just isn't the time for them right now.
Nope.
But I have a feeling things are going to change. I'm feeling there's some changes that have happened just in these last few couple months
Yeah.
for us, not from a hiring standpoint, but just the way the government, which I think all of us would agree and see, has been a very difficult area. Essentially, I'll just leave it at that. A
Mhm.
difficult
Yeah.
area, one, to be on the inside, and two, on the outside looking in, and
Sure.
all of that. And you know, especially like at the Post, for example, I talked to colleagues of mine that work there with me. And when I told them what I was doing, how much I was making,
Mhm.
they're going, dude, you're living the friggin' dream, because there's no stress. You go work at the Washington Post or work in a civilian sector,
Mhm.
there's a different kind of stress of
Mhm.
you better perform or you're out the door.
Mhm.
Because if you don't, we're making money here. And if you're not adding to that, go, you're gone. There's
Right.
a short leash essentially.
Oof.
And in the government, that leash isn't as short.
Right.
Um, and there's other stresses to it. So
Mhm.
it just becomes a challenge to land a job. And in the government, once you do, I think it's amazing. Um, if you can deal with all the nonsense from the civilian sector,
Mhm.
thinking you're just some dirtbag that doesn't do any work, you
Mhm.
almost want to go, hey, do a day of follow me around and you tell me if you could do this kind of stuff. Because,
Sure.
yeah, the bar might not be set high, but my bar is always high, because my
Mhm.
bar is that Washington Post bar. My
Yeah.
bar is what I learned at Syracuse. My
Right.
bar is what I did throughout my career to get me up that ladder. And I didn't get there by being lazy. I got there by just drive and drive and drive and trying to learn and grow and grow. And that played out well for me. While I was in uniform, I won military photographer of the year 2 years running,
Nice.
um, 2000,
Mhm.
or maybe 2001, 2002. I forget what it was, but essentially that. And that benefited me a lot, you know, more so than I realized. Because it's funny, because I happened to join the military right after the first Gulf War in 91.
Mhm.
I got out of the military essentially right before the second Gulf War. So
Yeah.
I hadn't seen any action or anything. The craziest thing I'd ever been in was essentially ground zero. That was a total different world,
Right.
eye opening, and um, life impacting. My sister in law used to work in the towers, and
Wow.
shortly before that, or shortly before 9/11, she moved into one of the giant towers that were next door. So she could have um, been in the thick of it. And what's interesting, I went and covered it. The building that they had, I've got a photo that basically they spray painted morgue on the bottom door, or on the entrance door of this building,
Mhm.
because that's where they
Wow.
were supposedly going to be bringing all the bodies. Well, that was the building she works in. It's
Mhm.
still up there. This giant, you know, half the size or three-quarters the size of the tower, but it's this giant black building. So if
Mhm.
you go to ground zero, you can see it right there. But at any rate,
Wow.
why I brought that stuff up is that kind of stuff allowed me to cover, but that was the only thing that I had done that was anything, intense, for lack of a better term.
Hmm.
And I landed at the Post, and I found it funny. I had to bite my tongue because they thought they were hiring this, combat photographer.
Hmm.
And, that wasn't my MO. And the first action I ever saw was the Washington Post sent me over to Iraq,
Mm.
and I happened to be
Wow.
over there when they caught Saddam.
Oh.
And so during that time, it was all happy go lucky, positive, and all that kind of stuff because everyone was fine. And so I was able to go over and climb down in Saddam's spider hole and
Oh my
stuff at
gosh.
his
Wow.
thing. And it was funny. He has an orange orchard outside of his little shack that he lived in,
Hmm.
right off the river. And I grabbed an orange and started eating orange. And I go, I
Hmm.
bet you this guy is so crazy. He probably poisoned these oranges. And I started like, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's crazy stuff that goes to the head. It was obviously a joke in my head, but I'm
Yeah.
like, he's done a whole lot worse. I'm wondering if he did this. And
Hmm.
then went back home, and this was the nuts. And I'm calling myself out with this, but boss came back to me like a year or so later and says, hey, we need to send you back over to Iraq. And at that time, we were doing like monthly rotation in the country. And um, it was that time during Fallujah where all the contractors and all that stuff, and they started going after journalists and all that. And Michael Robinson Chavez was currently over in Iraq. And I called him up and said, hey, man, what's going on? How's it going? He goes, dude, this is the word. And he was one of the Washington Post's war photographers. Like he was it. He knew what was going on, how to handle it, and all that stuff. And I'm this wet behind the ears guy, just follow my guys around. And he's going, this stuff is crazy. And again, at that time, I still had two young boys. And I went and told my wife, I says, hey, I got to go back to Iraq. And for the first time in our life, she looked at me and just gave me this stare like I was already dead.
Mm. Wow.
And unlike the military, I can say no. And
Hmm.
so I sat there and debated it for a couple days. And I go into boss and I go, I can't do this. There's just no way. I've got two youngins, and it's just not, I can't have this. And I think that was essentially the end of my civilian career. Uh, you know, I could have really shot up and became something, but I think I proved to myself I just don't have the the guts to cover that kind of stuff. I have the skill set. I trust in my skill set. I trust in my eye and my storytelling abilities. But if it was just me, that's one thing. But if I've got a wife and two youngins, I'm not like some of these greats that work out there and sacrifice it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. So,
we're going all over the place, brother. We're going
oh
all over.
yeah.
You can edit it down the line and cut us out.
Oh no, it's all staying in. Everything's staying in. Love it. Love it. All right.
That's good
Well,
to hear.
let's
Cool.
talk a little bit about what's going on in the world today, because obviously, with all that wonderful experience, I'm sure you have thoughts and views on everything that's happening.
Yeah.
And, I want to start with this story I found talking about, how AI is really just decimating the RAM and memory card market and stuff like that. And I was actually looking at some, figures and what was online and what I could buy, especially when it came to memory cards, because thankfully I'm good. I have all the memory cards I need right here. So I do not need to buy anymore. I took advantage of some Black
Yeah.
Friday stuff, so I'm good.
Yeah.
But there might be people out there who are getting into this craft and need to buy memory cards. And for the most part, it didn't look so doom and gloom when I just did a cursory, look at Amazon and B&H and stuff.
Yeah.
There are still memory cards for reasonable prices. I think, the data centers, they want more of the RAM and stuff like that.
Yep.
But,
Yep.
I would wonder, like, has it anything of this like affected you in terms of your need for memory cards or RAM or computers or anything like that? Because obviously, even in the government, we got to upgrade our computers every couple of years. We got to upgrade our cameras every couple of years and things like
Right.
that. I don't know if that's anything you're worrying about as it comes time to upgrade and buy new things with, money and stuff. Um,
Yep.
but, are you worried about it all? Are you concerned?
Well, it's interesting because it's a it's not a simple yes or no kind of or answer to me with this.
Right.
So working in the government, as you can imagine,
Sure.
um, when I came to Forest, I was the first there that they said, okay, you're going to be out shooting and covering all this. So
Yeah.
they needed to, or we needed to create a closet that basically, had everything we needed. And
Yeah.
we were able to spend a pretty penny on that and get what we
Sure.
needed. But with that said, I still want to go out and shoot for my own and all that kind of stuff. And I don't use, I try not to use the government stuff. I never use it for like what I'm doing. Uh, if I do any kind of work kind of stuff, but like if I'm just out here shooting DC or something, I might use it or might use our camera gear as a tester,
Mm-hmm.
or so I
Sure.
can continue the skill set because I don't get out nearly as much as I used to. And working at the post, I used to be able, the camera was an extension of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't get out often enough where it's like I feel like, especially diving more into video, and as a still photographer as my core background, every time I get out with video, I almost got to reteach myself. This is where the buttons are. This is what's going on,
Right.
and all of that. All that to say, um, as a matter of fact, just recently I got myself a new camera. I got myself that little Fuji
Mm-hmm.
XE5. I wanted a little baby thing, and I don't.
Yeah.
I love the Fuji's, but don't understand the uh, um, single lens. Like they've got like a 23 millimeter on there, and it's like, how can you shoot anything with just one single lens like that? That's not how I do business. As a
Mm-hmm.
sports photographer, I got to have my wide, and I got to have my 400,
Mm-hmm.
600, something like that. Well, all that again to say, I bought the camera, and I'm going, shoot, I didn't pack any of my cards.
Mm.
And so I went to the local camera store in Iowa and looked up. I go, well, let me just pick up a 128 gig card because that's what I usually have.
Mm-hmm.
And those things were like 200 and some bucks. And I'm going,
Oof.
whoa, what is that about?
Yeah.
So and I was talking to the salesman, and he goes, yeah. He says, we were blown away too that
Mm-hmm.
we ordered a boatload of cards to go ahead and stock us up. And the cost was just exorbitant. It was just out of control. And so I ended up getting another card. And the bonus is in photo, as you well know, you
Mm-hmm.
don't need the highest performing card. You just want
No.
something that has, that camera has got 40 megapixels, so or megabytes. So I'm able to store enough in there and get what I need on a card. So I still bought a 128, but it was a lower, slower kind of a card. If I wanted this to go video, I'd have to go to the faster card and all that to survive.
Sure.
Um, but working in today, I don't know. That's something fierce. The amount of memory you've got to buy, and especially if you're getting started in this kind of stuff, you just don't want to walk around with just one card. You need a few cards and backup and all that kind of stuff, especially if you're
Yeah.
doing this uh, business wise, doing it commercially. If it's just for yourself and you lose your vacation photos, big deal. But you're out in a shoot where you're getting paid big bucks, you better
Mm.
have the goods. And
Yeah.
yeah, that is something that you know it's got to be the tariffs and all that. I noticed all of the camera gear and all of that is uh, spiked in prices. And what is strange, what's really interesting about this that I learned,
Mm-hmm.
all those older, like I wanted to just go get an older uh, used camera, little point and shoot or something like that, things
Mm-hmm.
that I love because it make it fun. Well, those old used ones are selling even more than what the new ones are selling for, and
Yeah.
higher than what that camera even went for when it was brand new. And so our whole system now in the last year or so has changed dramatically on the financial side of the house. So
Right.
yeah, who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I was looking up one memory card, just to see like on Camel, how the pricing
Hmm.
changed. And
Hmm.
up until even January, it was still reasonably priced. Then
Hmm.
like late January, early February or something like that, price just like skyrocketed like
Oh
2x
wow.
that one particular card. So
Don't tell me that, man. I wish I would have bought them earlier. But yeah.
I know, right? Should have invested in Bitcoin earlier, right? That's what should have invested in memory cards earlier.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe that's the new Bitcoin is memory cards. So
Well, I've noticed there's all kinds of different brands now. Like I
oh
went into
yeah,
Best Buy or went into wherever and or all different kinds of places. And it used to be what? Lexar and SanDisk. That's it.
right.
Anything else, don't buy because it's going to break down or whatever. My understanding is that's changed or whatever. But if I'm buying professional, if I'm buying it for the government, it's always go find myself a Lexar card and work that route just from its um, dependability. But there are brands in there now that are, whoa, what is this all about? And I just don't have the guts to go buy anything that's, you know, generic. We'll just say that a generic brand, um, just because of all the headaches and nightmares I had back in the day when you'd shoot. I don't know if you ever experienced this, but early on in digital, I'd shoot and then all of a sudden that card would get corrupt and I just
Oof,
lost
oof.
half a shoot or something like that.
Yeah,
Thankfully, it didn't happen often enough, but it always happened to those or off-brand
yeah,
cards.
yeah. No,
So
I always try to stick to like the Lexars, to the name
yeah,
brands and stuff. I
yeah.
can't recall. It may have happened. I just can't. I've been using digital since my first digital camera was the Canon Digital Rebel. you
Mm,
know, and so I've been using CF cards and SD
yep.
cards and everything for as long as I can remember. And I don't remember a time when I completely lost a card, but they also had those tools that allow you to kind of recover cards and
Oh
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I did have one experience where I formatted a card before
yeah.
downloading the content off of it
Yes, yeah.
stupidly and lost a day's worth of work. And I thought I had downloaded it and I just didn't double check, and I could not recover the card at all to save my life. And it was just, it was so
Knock on
devastating.
wood, man. I pray that you used to have that a lot
Yeah.
more. Oh, I had it earlier in my career when
Yeah.
we went to digital, but again, knock on wood. I pray that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Um, but who knows? Who knows? I think
As soon as I
technology's getting
formatted,
better.
I was like, did I
Oh,
format
yeah.
that?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
just like, ugh. But it's
Yeah.
made me extra cautious, so it won't
Yeah.
happen again. That's for sure.
Yeah. Amen.
Indeed, indeed. Well, let's look at another story here about smart glasses. Now, I've been hearing the government's kind of cracking down on smart glasses, especially in the military, because you don't want
Mm.
people bringing smart glasses into a skiff and
Yeah.
potentially leaking government secrets. I wore them
Mhm.
when I was in, and there was no big issue about it. But I'd say, they're starting to kind of make people more and more, I would say, uncomfortable, especially in certain kind of like more
Yep.
secure locations, even on the public side, like superior courts and courthouses and things like that. And I've
Yeah.
actually got my smart glasses right here. I'm prepared with
You
all the
like them?
props. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. I
Are
got the
those the Ray
shades
Bans? Yeah,
version.
they're the Ray Bans. Yeah.
They are the Ray-Bans Meta. I've also
Yeah.
got ones that are clear that have transition lenses that I
Mm.
use when I drive, or not when I
Yeah.
drive, but when I'm indoors and stuff like that. So yeah, they're great. I love them. I actually considered getting the Ray-Ban displays, the one that have the little view screen inside
Yes.
of them,
Yes.
but I didn't feel like spending $1,000, and
Yes.
so I didn't get it. But
Yeah.
it's a neat proof of concept, and I'm glad I didn't get it because there's a lot of features that still haven't been implemented, and people are complaining about who
Yep.
did buy it. But I think they're really an interesting device, and I think they enable a kind of ability to kind of capture things on the fly that maybe wouldn't be captured normally because
Correct.
like before the advent of cell phones and cell phone cameras, we'd have to have a regular camera, right? So to
Yep.
the act of photographing something was a bit laborious because you had to go and get the
Yep.
camera, maybe you had to put film in
Exactly.
the camera, or if it was digital you had to put a memory card and you had to
Yep.
shoot the camera and get it in. It was just like a lot of steps, and then phones made that easier. They shortened the
Yep.
window. It's like you take the phone, you got it on your screen, you can share it.
Yep.
But even then, it's pulling out the phone or finding the phone or making sure the phone is charged and opening up the camera app. And with smart glasses, it's on your face, and you can
And you
either
just
tell it to
well,
take a picture or you can press a button
yep.
and it's right
Yep.
there. So I think it kind of reduces the friction to get a
Yep.
photograph created, and that's what I like about it. What do you think about him?
Yeah. It's interesting when I saw you were going to talk about this just a month ago. Every year I go out and I get new glasses because of my insurance and stuff. I figure use it or
Yeah.
lose it. And this year I was going to go out because before I went for my eye appointment, um, I had been seeing a lot of folks wearing them. I'm talking in the Forest Service, for example. LEI were wearing them,
Oh,
not for
okay.
their job, not for their job, but more of, hey, I just want this, and I got video, and it allows me to get these video. They haven't implemented it from a mission standpoint, but or their job, but they're always sharing like little videos that they've got from it. And I'm
Hmm.
going, it might be the time where I can start looking into this. So I really tried my best, and I'm horrible at research and stuff. Just, YouTube's all I know. And I depend on my boys. They're what, 30 something and 20 something right now, 29. And I swear they're almost like Google machines. They can find something in 2 seconds and tell you exactly what's going on, where it's a little more laborious for me. But I was looking at different versions of all these different AI glasses and what would I want. And the big thing that I couldn't stand was the fact that it's all vertical video.
Mm,
And I'm like,
sure.
I don't know, because if I want it, I almost want to have this POV view of behind the scenes
Hmm.
kind of video. So I'm out here shooting. I can use this as a behind the scenes video, and then
Hmm.
also use it when, like, I follow the chief of the Forest Service a lot. And um, I think that could be pretty cool. If I've got my glasses on, all I need to do is sit and pay attention to him. And now I've got essentially what a DJI pocket would do, or a GoPro would do, right here on my glasses. And I don't have to go lugging all that stuff around. Um, but I just couldn't pull the trigger. And I think a big reason is because, in my opinion, it's there compared to what it was last year, and where they've gone. It's so much better. And more importantly, like, you got those Ray-Bans. They look like Ray-Bans,
Yeah.
where the other versions, man,
And
you
they're
look like
priced
you're
about the same as the normal pair of glasses.
exactly. Yep. And you could put the sunglasses, you can do all the transition, all that kind of stuff with it. And I'm like, wow, yes, I'm going to pull the trigger on this. And then when I got up to the point where I was going to pull the trigger, I go, I'm going to wait. And a
Yeah.
big reason I said I was going to wait was because I understand Apple might be coming out. It
Oh,
makes perfect sense for me, because that's what Apple's MO is. They'll let everyone stumble on their sword till the end of the
sure.
day, and then they'll sweep in and go, this is how it's done correctly.
Yeah.
And one big thing that I wanted with these glasses was also basically have my phone, with the maps and directions
Right.
and AI, look at this building and it'll tell me what it's all about, or look at this
Sure.
product and all that. So I was looking for a multiple use situation. And while talking to the guys that I saw wearing them, I says, so how are you feeling about these? What do you think? And he brought something up that, like you mentioned, like the skiffs and military.
Hmm.
It's not even that, and I'm sure you're aware of it. That's like the obvious, get this out. But they're
Yeah.
wearing these things around the mall downtown or out and
Sure.
about. People see that little, you know, light or circle up there,
Right.
it automatically puts a shield up for them. And it
Of
makes me
course.
wonder, am I going to get what I need to get, even if I had them?
Yeah.
And so I go, okay, I'm going to hold off until it becomes more of a culturally acceptable uh, technology, where
Sure.
everyone's expecting it. Um, I live in a different world. I don't care. Put cameras up everywhere. I've got nothing to hide, and the stuff I have to hide, people already know it.
Yeah.
So who cares? Um, but everyone doesn't have that mentality. So I'm really curious, um, if people are using this technology in a way that helps them with their job, for our jobs. Because I'll be honest with you, I've been for the longest time trying to downsize and shrink because, as I mentioned, as a sports photographer, your back gets broke walking around with a giant 400 lens running up and down the sidelines of the
Yeah.
football field and all this stuff. It just, between that and my military, it just tore into me. And I eventually, when I first went to USDA, I said, okay, get rid of the DSLRs. I'm going to get myself mirrorless. So everything is smaller. Like I can have that, 1 to 400, which is basically a 2 to 800. And it's the size of, those mirrorless cameras. It's much small, half the size of a normal 70 to 200 right now. Well, I can go out and now cover everything I need to cover with that. So I'm sitting there thinking, if I've got that, if I've got a drone and I've got myself maybe a DJI Pocket or a whatever, um, now I can go in there basically with a backpack and a light backpack and get my job done and not have to worry, especially with today's technology and our mission, everything being online versus magazine print. We always joked at the paper we're printing on toilet paper, so you don't need high res like you do if you're running in geographic.
Yeah.
um, you can have a low res and get away with it. Well, same's true on online. I mean, you don't need massive amounts or massive file sizes to get the job done. And so all these little new technologies are something that um, I really want to dive into and really see, okay, how can we use this to help tell our story? Because let's face it, I'm I'm no young bird anymore. I'm 55 right now, and still hopefully have, knock on wood again, have plenty of years coming down the line here. But it gets to you if you're climbing around, and more importantly, if you're sitting. COVID took a massive hit on me.
Mm,
I never got COVID, but it's just the sitting around, not doing anything and not being active. I really feel I haven't yet even recovered from that. I find myself sometimes out in the forest, like sucking wind. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? Why am I this way? Part of it's I realize now I'm at like 12,000 feet. And of course, you're going to be sucking wind. But other times you're just in a mountain doing a minor incline on a trail. And it's like, oh my God, get this stuff over with. So the lighter I can be, uh, that's where I need to look. And it needs to be, if I'm glasses is going to be out of my pocket. So,
mhm.
and I've got no problem. I've never had a problem with that. If it's something that's going to make my job easier and more importantly, more fun and creative, I've got no problem, dropping the checkbook. Now, don't tell my wife that, but that's how it is. So, yeah, with
Yes.
that sense, it's nice, but you got to be. I've learned this from that, and the second I heard from this gentleman that was wearing these, I went to YouTube and looked it up, and sure enough, a bunch of people were talking about how um, folks are very sensitive. They know they see these glasses, and I'm curious how it would be like going down here and covering the protests and things like that with these glasses, or if people
Right.
would see something. I don't know. I've never heard of it used in the government. We've never
Right.
used
Yeah,
it.
I don't think, I mean, well, it depends on who's doing it, but in general, protests exist to be filmed and photographed. So I don't
Hmm.
think you going down there with your glasses and filming people are going to make it that big of a difference. What I
Yeah.
love about them is their ability to kind of present that POV view of
Yeah.
whatever situation, similar to how when people used to put the GoPro on their heads, it was
Exactly. Yep.
awkward.
Yep.
I actually went to Universal Studios and I wore them while I was going on a couple roller coasters,
How
especially
cool
roller
is that?
coasters where you couldn't have anything on you. Like I was going on to one, I don't know if you heard of it called Velociraptor or
Okay.
Velocicoaster.
Okay. No.
If you want an intense roller coaster experience, you got to go on this thing. Like they make you take out everything out of your pocket. You can't have any phones, coins, whatever keys.
Oh
But I was
wow.
able to keep my glasses on because they look like glasses and they're not going to tell you to take off your glasses. You got to be able to
Oh.
see.
Yep. Yep.
And so I was able to record the whole like roller coaster trip from, my POV. And so that's pretty neat to have that capability. And, again, it's just you see a little cute moment with your kids doing something, you just snap
Yes.
right there. You got it, right? And That's what I love about them. So I use them a lot. And when I'm doing like my blogs and the vlogs and stuff like that, or family vlogs going on vacation or, doing some kind of family activity, I've got the glasses on, I've got 360 camera, I got my regular
Yeah.
camera, I got my
Yeah.
phone, and I cobble it all together on a
Yep.
computer and try and make something of it.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to have it. Yes, the vertical video is
I was about to
annoying.
ask you, so what is your thoughts of, I mean, why is anyone coming? Everyone's saying shoot vertical because that's the phone. And I'm like, don't shoot vertical. I can crop
Nah,
this into a horizontal
yeah.
left, easily, especially
I,
if it's like 4K. But I'm curious
right.
your thoughts on
I
that. What,
I honestly wish that it's shot square video, if anything,
yeah,
in square
if
photos, because
anything,
then you can go either way. It's almost like
correct.
shooting open gate on a camera
Yep.
where you
Yep.
have that flexibility. But, I gotta say, the folks at Meta know their audience. They know the kind of
Yes.
people who would want to use this thing. And vertical,
Yes.
despite my internal reservations,
Yes.
personal, how much it angers me to see good video shot in vertical and then be like, why?
Yes.
It's what
Yeah.
customers want. They've become
Yeah.
adopted to it. So they went with the common denominator, which is vertical video shooters,
That's,
which
yep.
it is what
Makes
it is.
sense. Makes sense.
Maybe
I'm
someday.
curious if that'll come around. Yeah, exactly. If it'll
I
come
hope
around
so. I
and
hope
make it
somebody comes out with like a
horizontally.
horizontal one or both, and
Yep.
shoots both at the same time. I don't know. I don't like the fact that the lens is on this side of the face. I wish it
Yeah.
was in the center.
Right in the center so you can
Yeah.
see what you're getting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because when I'm recording with it, I have to kind of consciously turn my head a little bit, to the side just to make sure what I'm shooting is in
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah.
If the subject is far enough away, it doesn't matter. But if it's something like where my kid is right here,
Yep.
I might shift my head slightly just to make sure that they're in frame. But I do enjoy using them, and I'm glad that they exist. But yeah,
And
we'll
the
see
next
what
generation,
Apple
they're
comes
going to
up with.
have the little viewfinder in there so you can actually see what you're recording, probably,
Right. Well, I
because
mean, it's out
those
now.
don't,
You can
right?
get it now.
Oh, can you? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what the Meta displays are. It's just they're very
Um,
expensive, and
yeah.
you said Apple's working on something, so I imagine that they'll probably do something with displays or AR or something like that. That's the next thing.
And
It's where the
trade you.
cameras, are
Yep.
actually like providing like an AR thing. It's
Correct.
overlays. It's all kinds of
Yep.
cool stuff. But that's, I think, a couple, at least a decade
In
down.
a wearable thing, not the big old
Right.
ski
Hmm.
glasses thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
mean, Meta has been able to do it sort of in the lab, but they haven't released it yet because it would be far too expensive
Now
for
you
anyone
got
to
me
actually
geeked
buy.
out. I'm going to have to go
Mhm.
buy some glasses. So,
There you go, and you can get
yeah.
a discount with your
Yeah.
insurance. So
But awesome.
yeah, so I think the last story we'll talk about tonight before we close up the table is this one coming about the Olympics and specifically an ice skater who is just traveling on the ice and getting this really amazing footage with this Steadicam rig. And
Yep.
he is an ice skater, right? I don't know if he's an
Yep.
Olympic winner or whatnot, but he's an accomplished ice skater, so he's not just like you or me putting on ice skates and trying to
No.
manage to get some
No,
footage. Like,
exactly. Yep.
but for him to kind of take on these dual tasks of filming and
Yep.
also managing the coordination of skating, I think that's pretty impressive. And it tried to make
Yeah,
me
it
think
is.
like, what kind of weird situations have I had to be in where I've had to navigate a camera, also having to do something awkward? And have you ever been in any kind of situations like that? Maybe you've been in certain vehicles or certain situations where you had to kind of to manage the camera in a unique way.
Nothing like that. I'll be honest with you. The craziest or the most what was the word you used? And I'm having a brain lapse. The coordination of it
Yeah,
um, is really like helos and doing that kind of
sure.
stuff military wise, where you've got to get again. What's that? The device you put on there to keep rid of the shakes and stuff, and you're still dealing with it's the spinner. The I don't know if you remember, but at any rate, it doesn't matter. It keeps everything still. Where you almost, if you want to turn the camera, you're really turning the camera, even though it's handheld.
Yeah.
Um, Nothing other than remotes and putting remotes in different areas that
Hmm.
um, you physically can't go. That was something that I loved because it enables me as a one man band to go out and get all different kinds of stuff. And that purpose was purely a how do I get a look that no one else has got? And I mentioned Bill Frakes earlier, for example. he tells a story of like when he covered basketball. First off, like he covers horse racing and he's got so many cameras all over the place. But when he covered like basketball, for example, he put a camera up on top of the clock above the backboard. And that camera location was really only for television. And that's who I think is really coming forth with a lot of these great ideas. I'll tell you the thing that impressed me more than the skater, because you sort of see that, in my opinion, a lot of places where the guys running around on the NFL or on the football field with
Mm,
steady cams and stuff like
sure.
that. And this guy has got to be, he's doing it on ice,
Yeah.
but he probably thinks, yeah, big deal. It's like I'm
Mhm.
walking on a sidewalk,
Oh,
where
sure.
you and I are thinking different. The thing that blows my mind away, especially from this latest Olympics, is the drone footage that
Oh, yeah. Right.
they're getting a drone and following like a luge or
Yeah.
the bobsled
Yep.
going
Yep.
down, and it's not the camera on the rails like you see at a football game or
Nope.
a slider. No, they're actually flying right in and going down the whole track just like anyone else. I can't wait to see what that produces. um this is blasphemy to a lot of people, but I personally don't have any problems with, because I'm not a traditional photographer. I've got no problems with like frame grabs from 4K video, especially if I'm using the latest, lenses and stuff. It looks just like a photo. And once these drones get that quality where you have that, like, not that infinite depth of field and all that kind of stuff, but you
Hmm.
can actually dial in and have shallow depth of field on a drone,
Sure. Yeah.
which you can right now. But I don't think that rig is something you're going to go fly through
No.
a luge course. You need like a smaller DJI or something like that. But
Yeah.
once you get that in a smaller package where you can fly that and have that shallow depth of field, click, click, click. Here's all the frame grabs I can pull to feed my, still needs and stuff like that.
Right.
And sadly, I sit and think about that a lot because I love sports. And I sit there and wonder, they've been wanting to get people off the sidelines and stuff that for a long time. The day is right around the corner where they just put cameras all over the place and go, okay, we don't need you. We're just going to go click, click, click
Mm,
and pull what we need to pull. Editors back in the shop. And that's a lot. Like, I'm curious if that played a role in like these papers letting go of staffs and all that kind of stuff, where um, why do we need our own staff? And well, AP's covering a lot of it. Well, AP and Getty and all those folks are also employing all these other devices so they can get every single angle that you could think of and essentially run it. And I can see like AI down the line going, what's the best photo? Okay, here's 60 cameras, load it
hmm.
all in, or it's all loading into my computer. And as an editor, it's popping up the best photo of that sequence. Bat on ball will be a common thing in baseball, where it takes a skill set to do that from others, or, peak action in football or whatever, and being able to get from one side to the other in seconds, all that kind of stuff. Um, from events like that, I think the technology is going to really take over. Now, you talk to some of the old farts, they might think, dude, what are you thinking, man? Don't talk so negatively here. But I mean,
Hmm.
realistically, I think that's what's coming down the pipe. And the only thing that we've got left is, you know, a handful of different things. I'm sure you've had other episodes where folks have talked about, or maybe future episodes where they've talked
Hmm.
about where they see, what's going to happen in 2 years, in five
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
5 years, this world isn't going to look the way we think it is or anymore. We can't
Right.
even envision. I think, I'm not a smart guy,
Hmm.
but it's going to change us something fierce. So yeah, that stuff is um, interesting to stay on top of, especially in this world where we've got to find a new way of doing business and what's going to put food on our plate and a roof over our head and able to support it. I can't see it going away, but it's going to be drastically different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think obviously you're skirting around the issue there, but AI, right? That's the big factor,
Hmm.
right? The big question mark, honestly, for everyone, because some people saying it's the death of all work and the doom and gloom and the end of civilization as we know it. And other people,
Yeah.
I think, are a bit more, I would say, nonchalant about it and saying like it's a thing, right? But I
Yeah.
was watching a video the other day, and there was these people who have a integrated AI into their systems, and they're saying they're spending as much as it would cost to hire an employee to pay for like the tokens or something to run
Okay.
these AI systems. So I think, at the end of the day, AI is not free. It might
Yep.
be free for you to use it because you sign up for a free account, but there's a cost to everything. And
Correct.
either we're going to hit this point where just the bubble bursts and the idea of free AI goes away and that becomes realistic, and then realize, oh man, so it costs a lot more to use than we thought, or there's some sort of like turning point with it, I guess. I
Yep.
don't know. Maybe it becomes
Yeah.
cheaper, or
Yeah.
less expensive or less energy
It's got to. It's
dependent,
got to get cheaper. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got to get cheaper. I just saw this video, as a matter of fact, right before I came on. I was watching this video from Luke Forsythe. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's on YouTube and he's a cinematographer. And he shows like different gear, how he approaches going out and shooting in the wilderness. He shot, he was part, I believe, part of that Netflix series Alone, where
Mm,
guys go out into the wilderness and basically survive by yourself for how long ever you can do it. And he
yeah.
was part of that. And I liked following his stuff because it's like, hey, if I go out, what do I need to really survive off the grid for a period of time to do stories without having the luxury of going back to hotel and plugging in and all that kind of stuff. But at any rate, he was a video that just came out today or yesterday was talking about AI editing for his video,
Mm,
and not it would create basically a rough cut, and it was Eddie AI. And not to give a plug, maybe you can get it and get yourself some sponsorship with this, guys.
yeah.
But at any rate, he showed and did a difference between uh, these guys shot a documentary or did just a pseudo documentary, so he had actual footage. Had a guy edit down and get a rough cut going, and then he let Eddie AI do it. It took this guy like 22 hours or whatever to get everything done. Eddie AI, or the AI program, took like a top of 30 minutes or something like that to get to a rough cut. Now, granted, he's not going to, just like ChatGPT, not just copy and paste it, drop in a Word document and go ahead and publish. It's going to create something. Now I can go in and polish it up and formulate it the way I want it.
Hmm.
But you can get rid of all that heavy lifting, like boring work, logging your stuff, or creating, getting rid of all the junk. It automatically does it. And I'm thinking things like that that can make our jobs easier
Hmm.
is good. But especially from a government standpoint, um, I just don't understand AI being part of the visual communication creation.
Mm,
Like you can go in there and make graphics and stuff like that and have it create a graphic design for you. And as long as you're labeling it or whatever, maybe, I don't know. That's not my world. I touch it, but I don't delve in it. But the idea of saying, hey, AI, create me a photo of a family recreating on the Angeles National Forest out of LA,
hmm.
and boom, it'll create a photo that looks dead real.
Hmm.
Well, what you just did there is lost all your credibility of everything government going in there. So I see that as being the wires. I see it being government and all that. But if I'm working for Nike, heck, I can create that. The brand new hiking shoes, go ahead, AI, create this, and it'll do it just fine. And they've always been doctoring, or what we would call doctoring, photos or whatever, to shine them up. They would get rid of things or get rid of a telephone pole that might be in there or photoshopping things to an extent for their commercial usage for
Mm-hmm.
advertisements and stuff. Never, ever for editorial work, but for their commercial works or billboards or something. Hell,
Mm-hmm.
they'd go in there and doctor the snot out of it. Well,
Sure.
AI can do that for you.
Yep.
But from an editorial standpoint, there's no way right now. But I also fear people are just going to start accepting it. And just like in today's world, well, it's fake news. I expect fake news when I turn on the television. Well, I
Yeah.
expect fake news when I look at a photo.
Mm.
I expect it not to be real. And I think that among everything is sad, so sad in what the future of this industry, but then also like we were talking in the post a little earlier, not just to dive a little deeper into it,
Mm-hmm.
the fact they let go of their whole photo staff, the fact they got rid of their sports desk and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I'm just going to speak photo wise. No staff photographers working at like the Washington Post anymore. The Washington Post had a voice
Mm-hmm.
that was different than anyone else's.
Right.
Not better, not worse, different. And it's what made you want to listen to that voice. Now they don't have that voice anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a good business decision. Yeah, we'll just sign up for Getty and AP and AFP and Reuters and all that.
Yep.
But you don't have a Carol Guzzi out shooting or Michael Williamson out shooting and basically giving their perspective of what they're
Mm-hmm.
seeing and showing. And the fact that I feel the American public doesn't see the value in that. And I say they don't see the value because they didn't go up in arms when all this, yeah, the close circles did. But my mom, she doesn't care if the photo staff at the big paper over there in Washington, D.C. just got rid of their people. It doesn't impact them until it impacts them. And then it's going to be too late, I think, by the time to go, let's switch the fit on this and go do something better,
Yep.
or get us back to doing this. So we're in, I don't want to say that we're in scary times. We're in crazy times where it's like, my God, I pray that um, things work out here. Because I think it's going to trickle down all the way down to anyone, like, the youngins here. Like I said, or I don't know if I said this while we were recording. I just had my first grandson ever,
Yeah. Yeah.
born yesterday. We live in a very creative household.
Mm.
His father is very creative. He pulled that from me and my wife. No official training, nothing. But this guy, my son, is like creative beyond all. Like I'm impressed. And because we're in this creative household, I see my grandson being the same way, or I pray that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also curious what the future is for him.
Yeah.
What what's he gonna do?
I think
How
about
is
that
he
with my
gonna?
own kids. It's like,
Ain't that the truth?
are they just going to be prompt engineers when they go to
Yeah,
find a job, if they can even find a
yeah.
job, or is it basically, barbers and mechanics, and that's about it, right? And
And even
plumbers,
then, haven't you
right?
seen those? Haven't you seen those things
Yeah,
where a guy
yeah,
sticks his head in a hole and he comes out with a haircut?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
shit, you
right.
never know what's going to happen.
Well,
But
those are AI
at any rate,
generated, so
yeah. Oh, are they good?
they are, they are. There you
And
go.
see,
See,
this is
that's how
the
good
old
it
man. I'm
is.
turning into like my mom, where
Mm-hmm.
I believe everything that I see now. So who knows? It's
Yeah,
getting to that point where you can't trust what's coming out. You just don't know. Not lack of trust, but you just don't know, and
yeah,
it's a scary, scary time. So
for sure. Yep.
who knows? Who knows? That took us on a little rampage there, but I
Yeah.
apologize for that. But I think it
No,
worked.
it's okay. It's good. I love
Yeah,
it. The only
yeah,
thing I was going to say about the shooting in awkward situations, it's all kind of just like the vehicles you're on. Like I was on this rocking boat trying to capture a helicopter flying
yes.
and shooting over the water. So I was trying to shoot it at a low enough shutter speed to where I got the nice little blade blur, when you're
Mm-hmm.
shooting
Mm-hmm.
helicopters while on a rocking boat. And it's just like, that was probably
Were you
the
successful?
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
got honorable mention in Milfog, so
Oh, there you
you know,
go.
so that was
Good.
nice. But yeah, so that's probably the most like awkward thing I can think of beyond being like being on aircraft and shooting, other
Exactly.
aircraft from thing. So that's been the only thing. But no, I don't know. I think I'm gonna take my camera to the ice skating rink this weekend and just test my
You
own
should
skills.
try.
See how good I am. I've got a little Ronin S gimbal device, so maybe I'll just kind of go there and
God, you're
then I
just
wipe
adding
out and
more
just
money,
try.
more money, more money, and then you're gonna wipe out, and there it goes.
That's right.
Put it in a big box. That's I'll be honest with you, brother. That's what I love, love, love about this profession. You can be as creative as you want to be and try to, see the world in different ways. And what is latest technology? How was that enabling me? I remember when we were up at Syracuse, we took a visit down to National Geographic
Mm-hmm.
down here in town. Um, and they showed all the different little things that they create in order to get like they engineer cameras and housings and all this stuff to get those killer photos that they need. And as long as that's still alive, I think everyone's going to still, want to push the envelope and see what new things they can end up doing.
Yeah.
Um, I can't wait to see again drones to me. If if we're able to continue, I mean, with its DJI, I don't know if you saw here today, DJI is wanting or China's wanting to sue America because of um,
The band.
the ban and stuff. And
Yeah.
I can totally understand it. There's nothing out there that I've seen that even reaches, even can touch the quality of what a DJI does. There's a lot of drone footage in the military or in the Forest Service. Fire is main, fire and aviation. The drones they use, the quality of their video,
Mm-hmm.
it isn't an operator problem. It's a technical problem that it
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the second I picked up a DJI and started using it, I was just re-inspired again, like doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, I could be a Hollywood photographer here on the cheap. And I think that's what it all is like, okay, how do we do all these little things where I can make my stuff look like the best
Yeah.
or without the massive, massive budget? And as
Sure.
long as that's available, as long as I'm alive and able to go do that, that'll be my hobby and continue to do that. And hopefully I can do it during for work and get paid for it. If I can't, hey, I'm still going to do it, man. It's something fun. It'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
just of my son at his future football games and baseball and golf outings. I'll set up some kind of DJI in the golf cup and have him go and grab it or something, just like everyone else does. The old cliches, but find the new cliche.
Yeah. Well,
But
there you
yeah,
go.
it ain't.
Yeah,
It
I
ain't.
think the drones are great. I used a non-DJI drone one time and it was an absolute nightmare and I returned
Was
it
it?
almost immediately afterwards because it was
Yeah,
complete garbage.
yeah,
So, I'm glad I have the ones I do and
yeah.
hopefully maybe sometime in the future they'll make it back, but
I saw an F
we'll
stopper
see.
here today. They had one that now they've got the camera's a 360 cam.
Yeah, that's pretty
And so
neat.
you have to wear your goggles and you have to look
Sure.
where you want to see, but it's just a joystick. It's not the screen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
Yeah.
those kind of things, man, those guys, they're so impressive to me. Like the
Yeah.
guys that do the old videos at NFL game or whatever, and they
Mm-hmm.
go fly through the building and fly past the bar with everyone sitting at it. And I'm like, wow, that's something. So those are new techniques that just like that skater, like I said, I've seen it a little bit already. Being a sports guy, I've seen guys on skates rolling around with their camera, during intermissions and during whatever. Um, but just the idea of how do we make this quality much better and allow us, more importantly, to get content that, the public and ourselves haven't seen in the past is the number one goal.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't trying to show off, look at the cool things I'm doing, but how does that cool tool create content that nobody's seen? And as long as that doesn't get lost, I think we're all in it to win it. So
Yeah. There you go.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. All
Ending
right.
on a positive note for sure. Uh,
Amen.
Indeed, indeed. Well, that's been a wonderful conversation to have with you, Preston. Great talk. You're always welcome back to come on the show and discuss anything that's going on. So we'd love to have you back and talking more
Awesome. Awesome.
photojournalism topics. And before we say goodbye to you, is there anything you want to plug? Any websites or your own personal stuff that you want to direct people
Well,
towards?
not for me. It might be here in a couple months. Who knows what I've got going on here? I might
Right.
get whatever. But no, honestly, Dave, I love what you're doing here, man, and I wish you all the best here. I really hope this really latches on, and you find your. I hope you're having fun doing it,
Oh, yeah.
and it shows something that for the future here for other folks, inspiring folks that want to do this. It takes a certain skill set and desire and passion to do what you're doing, and I really applaud it. And especially the fact now that I've learned you're an old military buck and have followed, uh, walked down the same road that I've walked down in the past too. I, I really enjoy that. So best of luck to you. I can't wait to see more of your episodes, and yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch.
Indeed, indeed. All right, Preston. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the week, and stay positive. Stay positive.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Things will
You
be
have a
all
good
right.
one. Have a
You
great.
too, buddy. All right. Talk to you later.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye.